Okay, so I study developmental dyslexia, which is an unexplained failure to develop reading, so it cannot be explained if, for example, you didn't have access to adequate schooling. It has a neurobiological and hereditary basis, and it's very prevalent. It affects up to 17% of all children. And it's also very persistent. So most of the children who are reading disabled at 3rd grade will remain reading disabled by the end of high school. And there's sort of this paradox that exists in the field of dyslexia research where we know that interventions are most effective earlier on, even in preschool, but we can't start intervention until about 2nd or 3rd grade when the children have been diagnosed with dyslexia, and we can actually start targeting their reading skills. So my work focuses on kind of the links between musical rhythm as a potential avenue for this early remediation of dyslexia, because musical education is something we can do early on before reading onset. And why did we choose rhythms? There's some links in literature between the ability to process rhythm and better reading abilities. So children who are better at musical rhythm perception and reproduction are also better at reading. We also see that individuals with dyslexia have deficits in rhythm processing. And there's some emerging research that intervention studies that focused on musical rhythm actually had really good reading outcomes for those children with dyslexia. But we're not sure whether those links are there actually early before reading onset. So are they there in kindergarten? And some just quick background, the reason we even think that there is those links may exist is because there is really, we think that there's neural overlap between the neural mechanisms that target musical rhythm perception as well as language. So those systems overlap in the brain. And then there's all those other conditions, if I had more time, I would describe. So our research questions here are to examine the links between rhythm, phonological awareness, and early reading skills in kindergarten children. So phonological awareness is the ability to process and manipulate speech sounds. And it seems to be the major deficit in dyslexia. It's also what people think that rhythm skills are targeting. We also want to see whether this is sort of the mechanism that mediates the association between rhythm and reading. So is the ability to kind of ability to process rhythm improves your ability to process speech sounds, and then when you learn how to read, you map those speech sounds to letter representations, and you get to be good at reading. And finally, our question is, what are the neural mechanisms that underlie this relationship? So we developed a rhythm discrimination app. We call it Rhythm School. In the app, we have a camel who's very wise and is also a music teacher. And he teaches 2 students how to drum. One student is Sandy Same, is a really good student and always drums the same as the teacher. And then we have the donkey that's obviously very stubborn and is a bad student and always drums differently from the teacher. And the children basically hear the rhythm played by the teacher twice, and then they hear another rhythm played, and they have to decide whether Dudley, Different, or Sandy Same played that rhythm. And they get stars, and there's a lot of feedback that's positive and engaging. And we did this rhythm app with over 100 kindergarten students. We were able to just take it to the schools together with early literacy assessments. And we found that, in fact, there was a really significant association between rhythm processing abilities, so how well the children were able to identify whether Dudley, Sandy Same or Dudley Different played the rhythm, and the early pre-literacy skills. So children who were better at rhythm, they also knew more letter sounds and letters. We also found that this association was mediated through phonological awareness. So in fact, through your ability to kind of perceive speech sounds and manipulate those speech sounds is kind of the link that links rhythm processing skills with reading. So it's an auditory skill. Then we were interested to kind of discover what are the neural substrates, so kind of see what is the neural overlap between rhythm and reading abilities. So we were able to piggyback on an existing neuroimaging study. So this is a study that focused on early behavioral and neuroanatomical predictors of dyslexia. So we scanned kindergarten children in an MRI scanner. This can be a talk in and of itself of how to get a 5-year-old into a scanner and make him lie still. And then we looked at how those early brain predict reading abilities at the end of 2nd grade, so whether we can kind of predict whether neural measures can enhance the prediction. So we also in 2nd grade administered a rhythm app. And so we wanted to see what are the brain kind of associations in kindergarten that could predict rhythm skills in second grade. And we specifically focused on white matter pathways. So those are the pathways that transmit a neural signal across your brain, and we focused on those pathways that are important for reading. And we found that the integrity of one of those pathways in the right hemisphere was significantly predicted rhythm performance at the end of second grade. So children who had better integrity in this pathway also performed better in rhythms at the end of second grade. And this is a pathway that seems to link audio-motor regions in the brain. So it's important for audio-motor learning, which is not surprising because this is a very important neuroanatomical substrate for rhythm performance. And the interesting part about this is this pathway was in the right hemisphere. And in a lot of studies of dyslexia, there's been evidence that right hemispheric pathways and right hemispheric regions are actually more involved in those children, so suggesting that this is a potential pathway for compensation in those individuals. So kind of most of our language, if you think about language systems, they're in the left hemisphere, and sort of if you have a typicality in the left hemispheric language system, you may be able to kind of bypass it by relying on right hemispheric pathways. And so that's really interesting because it suggests that really rhythm could be a potential avenue for kind of targeting this pathway and be an effective method of early remediation. So again, we demonstrated there was shared cognitive and neural mechanisms between musical rhythm and reading-related abilities. And this kind of highlights the potential of rhythm interventions to improve phonological awareness, even before reading failure. So music is very engaging, it's fun, it has amazing effects on brain reorganization. So this should definitely be something that we should consider in the future studies. For future directions, we hope to kind of develop this rhythm assessment app to something bigger, to add, for example, rhythm discrimination, rhythm reproduction abilities. We are partnering with a study that a global literacy study that deploys tablets into remote areas in the world. And they explore how self-learning, how self-guided learning can improve children's early literacy abilities and cognitive abilities, so we hope to partner with them. Also, having such a tool allows you to collect a lot of data, which is very important for replicating the things that we're finding. And finally, we also hope down the line to develop a rhythm training app that would target those at-risk children earlier before reading failure. And this is our team. Thank you so much.